Hey everyone, Eli Schwartz here, Growth Advisor, SEO consultant. This is our first interview in a series where we're going to be interviewing conference organizers and founders. I owe so much of my career to our guest today, Brett Tabke. Brett took a bet on me, let me on a Pubcon stage, and I never let it go. I've learned so much from being a part of Pubcon, met the most amazing people, built connections and lifelong friendships, and just learned so much about search marketing. And one of the people that I met from Pubcon and built one of those lifelong friendships with, aside from just with Brett, is Michael. And it's just a great honor to be here with him today and having this conversation with Brett and talking about conferences and Pubcon and COVID, which will hopefully disappear soon. So Michael.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's great meeting you too, Eli. I think we met through Gallant, through a colleague of mine when I worked for business.com, which was a search engine at the time. I'm Michael Bonfils. I run a group called SEM International, and we do global search marketing, and have been doing that since I think we started the company in 2004. So we've been doing this for a while. Had another agency before that. Before then, I was at a search engine, and I'm aging myself very quickly and going down a very quick, slippery slope at my age. And I'm going through a midlife crisis right now. So so that's me. I do international. I also owe a lot of my career to Brett, and I'm serious, Brett. I mean, you've been very pivotal and great connections that I've made.
All I ask is 1%, all I ask is 1%.
Checks in the mail.
Okay.
I told a guy that at a conference once, and 2 years later, he came up and handed me a check for $5,000, and he said, "This is your 1%." I go, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You introduced me to that guy over there, and I sold him half of my business yesterday, and I promised you I would give you 1%." So he gave me $5,000. So he bought the bar that night at Pubcon. We went to the Breeze Bar and said, "Hey, open bar."
So, no way.
Yeah, true awesome. True story. He asked me not to tell who it was, but yeah, it was a true story.
Oh, that is great. That's awesome.
You meet some great people in the search business.
Of course,
best friendships I've had all life have been in search business. So
yeah, of course.
Well, Brett, why don't you tell us about how'd you even get into this?
Gosh, well, this is our 20th year.
Wow.
Doing trade shows and conferences. Pubcon 1 was late 2000. So we're just starting our 20th year, 2020. So we even had jerseys and staff stuff made up with 20 all over. And now we just want to 2020. Let's get that off of everything after COVID this year. So, well, Pubcon started in a pub in London. A group of guys on Webmaster World forum I built. They decided to go to London and have a pint on a Saturday afternoon, and like 100 marketers showed up to meet them. And they're like, "Hey, it's a conference." No, it's a pub conference. So that was where the original spark started. And then every conference after that, we tried to do a little more. And then by 2004, we had Matt Cutts and a whole panel of search experts come in from the search engines, and it just blew up from there. And then we got kind of lucky. Our conference was right after the Florida update in Florida. That's why I named it the Florida update. And so it just blew up from there. We went from 100 people in 2000 to 1,600 by 2006. So wow. It was a great growth trajectory. Before that, I was building websites for people. And before that, I worked for Gateway 2000 as I ran their 24 line bulletin board system online, so that people could download drivers and stuff. For that, I wrote 8-bit Commodore software for the Commodore 64 and Commodore 128. So had quite a career in tech, several different distinct phases.
Yeah. Wow. So you didn't even know this in your career. You just kind of fell into this conference thing and just did it all the last 20 years.
In the 80s, I did a bunch of those personal growth classes. It was called LifeSpring. It was like EST and that whole ilk forum and all that stuff. And I used to volunteer to help set up the trainings. And one day one of the facilitators says, "Dude, you set it up better volunteering than the other guy does that we're paying to do it. And it always stuck with me. I loved all the logistics and behind the scenes. And when the opportunity came to get into conferencing, I'm like, oh, I'm there. That's so what I want to do. So I jumped at it full throttle.
So you had no experience before?
No, not at all. Well, I did trade show booths for Gateway for a couple of years, but nothing like running your own show. No, not at all. It was on the job experience.
So. Do you still remember your CompuServe email address?
I was not a CompuServe.
No.
I was on there on the company's dime anytime I was on there, but
okay.
no, I was People Link and what was the Quantum Link. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, talking about something with no experience, I assume you have never had experience doing conferences and events in a pandemic. So,
oh, geez,
what's the pivot been like, and what did you?
Well, you know, when it came down in March, and we had to cancel. It was 3 weeks before our Florida conference, so we had to cancel that cold. And you know, kind of the general consensus was we'll get a handle on this. You know, flatten the curve. And by middle of summer, late summer, we figured we'd be having conferences again. It really did. And we know how that turned out real quick. So I didn't pivot right away. We didn't go virtual. I've kind of had an affinity, well, I won't say against virtual, but 2006, 7, 8, when YouTube was first growing, we tried to get a video play together, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on video, hired a video producer. We built a video studio in the office, produced several thousand hours of video, and we couldn't show anything for it. There was just no path to monetization on it. So I felt pretty burned about video for many years. I've had PTSD about video. But the good thing is now the cost of it's come down so much. You know, you got a webcam and you throw up a banner and hey, you got yourself a studio. You don't have to spend $40,000, $50,000 on green screens and mixers and you know, a good camera used to cost $1,000. Now webcam $100 and it looks better than those $1,000 ones did. So I was late to pivot, and really it didn't hit home until August when we had to cancel our Vegas conference. I was convinced in August we were going to have one in Vegas. I'd done everything. I'm fortunate to be married to a doctor of nursing, a professor of nursing, and she sat down with me and we went through everything on the right kind of social distancing in the big convention center, how we were going to lay it out, how we were going to keep everybody safe. And a week later, convention center, sorry, we're shut down until the end of the year. And it was at that point where I had the epiphany, okay, the only thing we can do here is go online. That's the only thing we can do. Obviously, I'd been in the business and watched what had been going on with virtual and how the pivot had taken place. So it wasn't easy, but the idea of reaching more people, that you can broaden your base online, was very attractive to me. And getting back to working with small businesses was very attractive to me. So that was where we kind of refocused on small business, broadening our audience. And in fact, our conference 2 weeks ago, the first week in December, we give that away free as a stream on Facebook. And we had 3,300 interactions, clicks to play over the 2 days. So that's one of our largest engagements ever. So clearly it's working. We're going to keep working on that in January. So that's a bit about it. So,
so do you think anyone's ever going to want to go back to real conference again?
You know, I think once we get a bit more widespread on the vaccine, late March, early April, there is going to be a pin-up demand for people to go back to conferences. Yeah. And right now I'm trying to read the tea leaves. When is that going to be? When is that opportunity really going to hit? Is it going to be late April? Is it going to be May? Is it going to be June? Just don't know yet how it's going to roll out yet. So, but there's pent-up demand. People want to get together so bad in our industry. It's obvious. Everybody misses everybody. You can only do this Zoom for so long until it's unfulfilling. You know, it just doesn't have the in-person intimacy or presence.
And I would suggest kicking it off in Hawaii, but that's just my suggestion.
well, it's going to be in Florida because. Okay. I don't think I'm talking out of school, but so we had paid in full for our Florida conference, right? 100%. And since it was, quote, an act of God, there was no refund available, but they were willing to roll it forward. So our next conference is in Florida, come hell or high water. So we currently have dates in late April, but I think I'm going to push them again to May if they'll let us. But the problem there is all these other conferences that got canceled as well, they're wanting dates too, so now it's a pecking order, who gets what and when and where. And so.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the goal right now is really to keep a lot of attraction going and momentum going, at least virtually, getting the word out. And
Right.
even if people don't, necessarily make a full commitment to being there, they know about it and they can pick and choose the sessions that they want to listen to or watch. And so I think I think it is what you're doing. It's great. You're really getting the word out. It probably hurt you. I'm imagining, I don't know, but I imagine it probably hurts a little bit financially in comparison to the understatement of the year.
Yeah, you're basically going a year without income. I mean,
yeah.
It's who can sustain that? At some point the savings run out. And for me, first staff I let go was in March. Left part of the staff go, and then after we had to cancel Vegas in August, I let the rest of the staff go. So I haven't drawn a salary since March. So there you go.
That hurts.
Yep. So.
Wow. Well, you've been a very valuable part of this industry and connecting people, and I think one of the things that I have an amazing amount of respect for is the way you draw in celebrities like Satya Nadella.
Yeah, we had Satya
at a Pubcon. Like, who are the other famous people? How do you get them to come to Pubcon?
We had Malcolm Gladwell, author of The Tipping Point, had him in Boston. He was just curious about the whole SEO space, and I had a 3-hour phone call with him. It was unbelievable. He had put the phone down. I'll be back in a minute. And 10 minutes later, he'd come back and we had this great conversation about search. Okay, yeah, well, I got to be at Harvard the day before, so I'll still be in Boston. I'll stop over. So, it's a bit of cajoling. Some speakers we do pay. Other speakers like Craig Newmark, I've known him since the 80s. Very, very good friend of the industry. He just loves to do that kind of talking. Satya, it was just happenstance. That was the year they launched Bing, and we said, "Hey, you want to come out, Mel?" And sure. So unfortunately, that was right after the crash in 2008. Was he? Yeah, I think that was right after the crash, and when we got Satya out, and so it just really depressed attendance that year. So I felt sorry that we didn't have a very big crowd that year for Satya, but. Yeah, you just got to keep talking with people. You just got to keep talking and reaching out and building relationships. And sadly, we had Tony Hsieh too.
I remember that one.
Who just knew us by reputation. I think that was the same year as Satya, actually. And we may have gotten Tony because of Satya. So, but
I watched that session with Tony, and I thought it was great. It was one of my favorite all-time interviews that you ever did. It was just I still have a note somewhere. It was just a really, really good one.
And of course, like everybody else, we really miss Matt Cutts. So Matt was always a great draw. So
yeah, of course.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about some of the other speakers who, the Michaels and Eli's of the world. What does it take to be a speaker at Pubcon? Like, how do you choose them? I know you're unlike other conferences where you've got a Brett who's running the conference and they're kind of sitting back and having other people do stuff. You are involved. Like you're picking the rising stars of our industry. Like how do you identify them?
Well, number one, they need to have expertise. Number two, like you say, it's a big community and we have a big speaker pool. So people know people. And if somebody speaks for somebody, yeah, I'll go take a look at them. And one of the big benefits we have now is everybody's got a YouTube video. Everybody's got a PowerPoint up on SlideShare. That you can go through and look at and see, okay, yeah, this is expert level commentary here. Who's talking about something we've never heard of before? Who's got a new niche? And so we put them on a panel. We put them on a panel with 2-3 other speakers, and everybody kind of pulls everybody along to see. And we all speak for each other. When somebody's good, they're good. If somebody's not good, you let me know that too as well. So I really lean on the speakers to help vet new speakers as well. So. And it's never been easier. It's actually never been easier for us to do that. It used to be very difficult, 2005 through about 2010. We had a small speaker pool. Maybe we'd get 100 proposals for a conference. And then by 2015, 16, we were getting 500, 600, 700 proposals for a single conference. So it's slowly become easier. We just get our hands in there and look at each and everybody. And one of the longstanding complaints we have about Pubcon is we have so many speakers who've spoken for a decade for us, like Michael. He's spoken for over a decade for us. But once we vet somebody and we know they're expert in in their whatever field it is, we know they're going to stay current. They're going to be up on the new stuff. They're doing this professionally. They've been vetted. We know their information is good. That's the speaker we want to expose to our community, because you can trust the information they're giving out. So you can't always do that with the new speakers.
Is there a percentage of new speakers that you choose? I bring that up because one thing that I find really charming, and you do this, you've done it since as long as I've known you. I've seen brand new speakers who've never done it before, and they're scared and they're nervous, and all the other expert panels just love them, and so does the audience, because it's like, wow, they're really given a chance. They've been thinking about this for weeks. They've been practicing. They're just like, you know what I mean? And it's really that special moment when you see a new speaker give it their best shot, and a little bit shaky, but they're doing their best.
Yep.
But it's great that you allow that. And so I'm wondering, is there a percentage of new speakers that you also think about? Like, do you have a number?
Right. We see people pop up all the time, pitch new folks. I don't know how they heard about us, and we'll go check them out, and we'll give them an opportunity if they can show that level of expertise. And like I say, they often have somebody speak for them. I know Eli, I know Michael, and I'll come, hey, Michael, what do you think? Oh, she's great. Okay, we'll give them a shot. In fact, one year we had an entire track we called open mic track, where we just invited folks in to, okay, here's 15 minutes for you. See if you can draw a crowd, see how it goes. And we ended up pulling quite a few speakers out of that open mic track. So
Can I ping you on something here?
Yeah.
If we had to create a tweet, or maybe something longer than a tweet, 4 tweets, what's the exact requirement? How do you get to be able to speak at Pubcon? How does a new speaker, we're going to assume they have some expertise, how do they become a Pubcon speaker?
Number one, you got to pitch. I don't go out and recruit too many speakers. It's fairly rare we go out and recruit speakers. Generally, the thinking is when you recruit a speaker, other than a keynotes we obviously go out and go after. But when you recruit a speaker, that puts the power in the wrong position. They, okay, you came to me. So often when we recruit people that we want, often they want paid, and we're going, this is a community. Here's the situation. Here's how Pubcon works. So number one, you got to pitch. The standard phrase behind the scenes is, if you didn't pitch, you can't bitch. You can't complain if you didn't get picked, if you didn't pitch to get picked. So number one, they got to fill out a proposal. Number two, absolutely have to be an expert at whatever niche they're pitching for. Just tell us, speak from their expertise. That's number two. They got to speak from their expertise to their expertise, and try and guess what we want in a speaker. Don't try and fill whatever void you think Pubcon serves our audience. That's not it. We want you speaking from your expertise. Whatever that personal expertise is, that's what we want to dig into. Number three, if you know somebody already on the speaking crew, have them put in a word for you, have somebody reach out. And number four, have something unique. If we've heard the same case study 15 times from the same company, it's like we have several speakers from IBM, and they go way out of their way to make sure they don't overlap, and that it's something unique, and they don't quote the same sources. And here they're all on the same team. They could easily put the same presentation together real quickly. So we want uniqueness. We really want something that we haven't seen before, that maybe is inspiring or uplifting, or a new type of case study based on their real world experiences. We so want people to give their own, what they saw, not what the common industry knowledge is, what everybody with the herd is following. So that's kind of what gives us our unique flavors, because we'll have two speakers get up and completely contradict each other. And we're like, well, which one is right? Don't know, but that's food for thought for later. So you can dig into it yourself. So.
Can we say number 4 is the most important?
Uniqueness. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right.
Yep.
And I know from my own experience, when I customized a presentation to make it as unique as possible, I got packed rooms and long lines and everything else because of that. That one on, I did that psychological behavior one where I changed it up a bit and I tested the audience and made them profile themselves and then did the presentation. And people were after that. They were coming at me with all kinds of ideas that just triggered in their mind. And that's what you're saying, Brett, is what draws people back to Pubcon. It's like, I got a golden nugget out of this conference.
Mm-hmm. We generally ask everybody to come up with a unique deck for Pubcon. We don't want you to give the same deck you might have given at the local Rotary Club or the local marketing club. So it's a different audience. So let's get a different deck. Doesn't always work out that way. We had a couple instances in 2006 through 2009 where somebody got up with another conference's template and gave theirs. Happened multiple times. We finally had to, okay, guys, use the standard template.
Is that your biggest pet peeve, or do we have another one?
No, probably the only pet peeve is speaker shows up the day. Oh, I brought along my friend Bob. Can he come watch all the sessions with me? No, we can't. And that happens more than you think. We kind of nipped that in the bud, though.
That never even occurred to me. Next Pubcon, I'm bringing my family.
Yeah, even that Las Vegas one, we had somebody show up at registration. Well, what do you mean my husband can't sit through all the sessions with me? Well, he can sit through your session, but then he has to leave.
That's nice that you allowed that at least.
Yeah. We give session pass. We do. We got a session pass for spouses. So
okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I have gotten people coming up to me and asking that, hey, you think you can get Brett to get me in? And I'm like, I can give you a discount code, speaker discount code.
And that's why we started that back in the day, Michael. That's absolutely why we started that. So that you had a weapon to offer.
Yeah, it's awkward. I always feel kind of awkward, especially if it's a client, and it's like,
oh yeah.
Then they're going to want you to pay for it.
Yeah, don't say that on a podcast. That's going to be the next thing. But that's okay.
All right, well, let's wrap up with the biggest secret possible to being successful as a speaker at a conference. Like, what if you had to give somebody a tip? We know that they're going to be unique for Pubcon. How do they kick off a speaking career?
How do they kick off? Well, number one, have something unique. You just have to have a unique bit of your own expertise that's going to captivate people. The biggest problem speakers have when they first speak is literally they don't practice enough. They don't practice enough to get comfortable speaking. It really shows up now that we're doing virtual events because everybody's so comfortable. Even our guys doing the master's group training, we ask them for 8 hours of content and they talked a little bit slower when they were doing it on camera than they did in person because they didn't have that little bit of nervous energy that helped them talk a little faster. And instead of 8 hours of content, they gave us 10 and a half. So we had to figure out what to do with 2.5 extra hours. And Joe's like, it's the same talk I give last year. How did I go this far over? And it just comes down to practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. It sounds dumb. It is, but you got to practice over and over. And especially on Zoom, watch yourself. You got to watch yourself. You got to get to the point where you're comfortable watching yourself and listening to yourself on Zoom. Everybody hates listening to themselves the first 1,000 times they do it, but do it 1,000 times, 1,001. Hey, I actually agree with that guy talking there. I wish I would have said that. Oh, wait, that was me saying that. So practice on Zoom, practice. After that, try and be engaging and not in a glitchy kind of, gimmicky way, but ask questions of the audience, get them to look up from their phone for 5 seconds and not 15 bullet points, but maybe a decent graph, a decent picture from your own experience that was something unique. So, you know, the ingredients that go into a good speaker are pretty varied. I watched a gal in Florida, 2004. She shook so much getting on stage that she turned around to drink a cup of water during her speech so she could lean over and didn't spill it on herself. She was that nervous. She gave just a 5-star presentation, and she went on, and I'm not going to call her out because I didn't get her permission, but she's an industry veteran now, widely respected in entire marketing sector, and people line up to go see her sessions. So there's a chance for everybody. I think there's a chance for everybody to become a good speaker.
Wow. Well, Brett, it's really been an honor to know you. It's been an honor to have this discussion with you today. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. So good luck with the podcast.
Well, you're the first. You've kicked off so many careers. You're kicking off a great podcast here.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brett. Mike, any last words?
Yeah, well, again, thank you, Brett. Thank you for the years of allowing me to participate in such a great conference. You know, I'm a big fan and a huge supporter of Pubcon. I always have been and always will be. So anything we can do to help you. And, you know, I know these are trying times, but I think it's going to be even more of a benefit in the future. I personally cannot wait for the next one. I'm so excited about it. I'm like, we'll be there, I promise. Even if you don't allow me to speak, I'm going to be sitting there in front with a little flag.
Well, our next online one, we're announcing yet today. So our next online one. So January 20th and 21st, we're going to do a local services conference online. So.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. January 20th and 21st. Thank you so much, Brett. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you guys.